Colonel Davies, it's good to see you. Trump saying he's disappointed by Putin and saying NATO countries can shoot down drones from Russia and making a U-turn that Ukraine can cede territories. Do you think the war has entered uncharted territory?
You know, I actually don't. I think it's just the predictable consequence of all the claims that President Trump has been making since he's been in office, trying to get this war solved and saying he could get it done in a day and then 100 days and then, well, within 2 weeks, or maybe it was 50 days and then 10 days, etc. All these deadlines keep coming and going because President Trump didn't have the leverage to actually force or compel the Russian side to do what the Ukraine side wanted to do. That was always going to be true. Now that it's playing out, because all of these claims that now he has these, powerful secondary sanctions he's going to impose on India, on China, on Brazil, or even on European countries that are buying oil from Russia, etc. We can't impose those. And the one exception has been India, of course, where we had that 25% additional tariff. That hasn't been resolved. But when you're talking about China or some of these others, that will only harm the United States. And Trump specifically said, unless the European Union cuts off all the oil immediately and applies all these tariffs, then we won't do that. So what I think this tells you is that President Trump has run out of cards to play, so now he's just using a lot of rhetoric. But even this situation where, quote, authorizing NATO to shoot down Russian airplanes, I mean, that they don't need his permission. That's their national airspace. They alone make that determination, and they still will. So I think that other than a lot of rhetoric, that nothing has really changed, and it just shows that there is no leverage point for the United States.
And still talking about this rhetoric and what Trump said yesterday, he actually termed Putin as a haircut, and he actually marshaled Europe to stop buying Russian oil, like you mentioned there. Is this a provocation or Trump's bargaining tactics?
I think it's more, I don't even know if you call it bargaining tactics, because I'm not sure what he's trying to get a bargain for, because the European Union, I mean, they can't, especially Hungary. Hungary is one of the bigger buyers. They flat out said they won't do it because they can't. It would almost be economic suicide to stop doing that, because then they would have to scramble somehow to replace all of the petroleum products they get from Russia from other sources, which would be much higher and harder to get. And they said they can't do it. So that's not going to happen. So then you wonder, bargaining to do what? I think rather it's just a bunch of rhetoric, because I think it's as important what Trump didn't say in that Truth Social post as what he did, because he didn't say anything about leveling new sanctions on anybody, no secondary tariffs, no additional weapons and arms sales that other than what he's already promised. And he basically said the Ukraine and the European side can do whatever they want to do to figure the rest out. But Europe is just as out of cards to play as the United States is, and they don't have any more substantive ammunition or weapons or anything else to give above what they already had. So all of that net, you look at the ground and you say nothing has really changed. And I think the Russians recognize that, and they're simply continuing on with what they were already doing.
All right, Colonel Davies, it's good to see you. Thank you very much for talking to us today.
Always my pleasure. Thank you.